Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. ADM recently unveiled its newest proprietary research revealing consumer perceptions and understanding of regenerative agriculture and how awareness, motivation, and messaging are motivating a new era of purpose-driven purchasing. Here to share with us those latest findings of this report are Paula LaBine, Sustainability Marketing Director with ADM. Welcome, Paula. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks, Sarah. Glad to be here.
For those of you that are tuning in our audience, thank you for being with us. If you have any questions, feel free to post those there in the chat area on your screen. If you're joining us from social media, feel free to post those questions directly in your social feed. So, Paula, ADM's research shows that 59% of consumers have heard of regenerative agriculture, yet 19% are familiar with what it actually means. What does your latest research reveal about how consumers are thinking about regenerative agriculture today, and why is the awareness gap significant for brands, and how should they address that?
That's a great question. Starting with the first part about how consumers are thinking about regenerative agriculture, at a big picture level, most consumers see this in such a positive light. They see regen ag as a win for the planet, the people that grow our food, and also for future generations. But when you kind of dig down a level, despite only 19% saying they're familiar with what regenerative agriculture means, shockingly, a lot of them are actually able to articulate some of the direct benefits. So things like improved soils, healthier ecosystems, better farming outcomes. They actually aren't giving themselves enough credit for what they do know about this topic. We direct quoted consumers, and our word cloud shows this oversized emphasis on terms like caring and restoring, nurturing. And when I saw that, what all I could think of was, in these fractious kind of divided times, one can understand how the concept of regen ag might resonate deeply and appeal positively with consumers. So with these positive perceptions, despite this lack of understanding, it's a huge opportunity for brands to build on that belief and link these benefits that consumers care about deeply, which can then in turn help brands differentiate and grow. I think the way to address the gap is really through storytelling, storytelling in a way that helps educate consumers and really unlocks that deeper engagement. When they do that, we see the purchase intent rises dramatically once they really get an understanding of the benefits.
Why do you think regen ag is really gaining momentum in the marketplace? I mean, it really seems to be something that folks are thinking about and maybe even looking for. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again? Apologies.
Yeah, that's okay. We're just, why do you think that regen ag is gaining momentum in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with, this desire to, understand where their food comes from. The idea of that they want to have more control over, the foods that they choose, and the benefits that connotes to themselves.
What about different generations? Are you seeing a generation differentiation, and who's really leading the charge for acceptance and awareness of these practices? That's something probably that brands, I would think, should be thinking about anyway.
Yes, exactly. I mean, younger consumers tend to over-index when it comes to assigning importance to environmental attributes, and they're more likely to state that they would pay more for these products. However, Gen Z tends to be a much more skeptical generation than older consumers. So you see this really interesting balance where older generations tend to be more accepting of claims that they see, where younger generations are a little more skeptical. I think it really highlights the importance of education, and that messages without explanation and authenticity are going to fall short, especially with Gen Z consumers.
You mentioned education. The report shows that when consumers are given really a clear explanation of practices like crop rotation, cover crops, the perceived value for them jumps. So education sounds like it plays a pretty important role. Is that how it is?
It is. It plays an enormous role. I mean, consumers want to understand. They want to have more of a connection to their food, and really brands that invest in this education through great storytelling, they can better engage consumers and more so do it authentically. I think this is a topic that can get really technical really quickly, and
Mhm.
so, but what we found is that the general concepts resonate strongly, and this allows brands then to choose paths that are more authentic to their brand, and realize that differentiating potential.
And farming can be pretty technical. So how do you really bring that meaning and make people feel connected to it when you get to like something like regen? How do you make it tangible for them?
Yep, yep. Again, great question. The research shows that we tested a variety of messaging pathways from, very general to very technical, and we found that actually the strongest messaging pathways focus more on general benefits such as improving soils, building productive and resilient farms, and protecting the food supply. Those resonated really strongly. Like 74% of consumers really feeling strongly about these messages, whereas when they got more technical, those ranked a bit lower. So I guess what we're seeing here is that the storytelling is really important, and that the story of regen grounded in tangible benefits versus technical practices, that's really where they derive the meaning.
So the report showed that 83% of consumers purchased a product after seeing regen agriculture on the pack, on the labels. Why is on-pack communication? Why is it so powerful in converting interest into actual action?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before. I mean, I believe this really signals one of the huge misses that's happening right now. There are a lot of brands, a lot of companies that are supporting regenerative agriculture, but very few are messaging and really not giving consumers that opportunity to engage with the process, right? So if you think about uniting the value chain from farmers all the way to consumers, really the consumers are missing out here. And I think they're not being given a chance to vote with their wallets. My theory is that why we're seeing this resonate, it's so powerful, and there are maybe fewer options out there. So the ones that are on shelf really do stand out. I mean, the research suggests that consumers want to connect with the origins of their food, and they want to buy in ways that reflect their values. I think that really does signal how important and how deeply held these beliefs are about how food is grown and how consumers can connect with that and really drive purchase.
So they're willing, I think you said this previously, but they're willing to pay more for products made with regen agricultural practices. And what determines that willingness?
Yeah, this is a good question. I would say we focus less on, we ask the question, but really like the stated willingness to pay more, which by the way, the average population around 20%, 30% for millennials. But generally speaking, stated willingness to pay may not actually reflect actual purchases. What we believe is that this is a signal for perceived premium value, right? So it's evidence of appeal. It's evidence of being a differentiator to really stand out on shelf, which then in turn drives growth, drives loyalty. We really see this as a growth and loyalty benefit versus like a margin benefit. I wouldn't encourage anybody to charge more for products, but rather to look at this as a lift for sales and for loyalty.
Your research tested different messaging pathways such as improved soil health, more resilient farms, protecting future generations, and even higher quality, more nutritious foods. How can brands leverage these perceptions to build stronger connections and trust with consumers? And are there some of those points that are more important perhaps when it comes to resonating with consumers?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with, how can they leverage these perceptions? Well, it starts with supporting a program. I mean, let's be honest. So you're going to want to support a program and farmers that are implementing these practices. It will require brands to invest in these relationships, with these farmers to help convey these powerful stories. The farmers, these are their stories, these are their farms, and for me, the way to fully leverage these positive perceptions is to make these strong connections to the farm and through farmers who tell their stories really credibly and authentically. I think, these positive perceptions are there, but the way the messages are conveyed is really critical. And to develop that trust, you're going to need to have the world according to stakeholders outside of your own four walls. And that's going to require investing in those relationships and bringing those stories forward.
What about partnerships when it comes to, bringing the value chain together? How important are those when it comes to regen?
It's crucial. Again, I think, yes, of course, we're talking about the entire value chain. ADM sits in a position between the producers, the farmers, and brands. But honestly, we need to, connect across. And this is why we know farmers tell us all the time that they are looking for more ways to help tell their story. They said if the average consumer knew about the investments they've made, the practices and the benefits, that they would really engage the consumer to have more, to really see the depth of what that can do for perceptions of American agriculture and the nutrition and quality of our food. There's a kind of a vacuum when it comes to where knowledge comes from. There's a lot of social media, a lot of internet influence. And so this strong connection back to the farm and what's actually happening could go a long ways towards sort of dispelling a lot of skepticism around the health of our food, where it comes from, and the practices that go around it. So again, connecting with farmers is really going to be key here for growth, for trust. And they're the ideal spokespeople. I think they have one of the highest levels of trust when you look at occupations. Farmers consistently rank, I think, in Gallup as having more trust than maybe even medical industries or doctors and things like that.
Exactly. So then looking ahead then, how do you see regenerative agriculture kind of shaping the future of the food and beverage innovation?
Yes, I love that question. I think when I look at this research, it really supports the idea that this environment that we're in, today, again, we're in kind of these divided times, a lot of skepticism. Consumers really are seeking more transparency and stronger connections to how their food was grown. They want to see the care. They want to see messages of restoration, versus depletion. You can see this kind of forming in the backlash around ultra processed foods, consumers wanting to have more control over what they eat. Support for regen ag and the storytelling opportunities that come with it. It really provides brands with the ability to include consumers in this movement, and the ability to choose to support it. I think that's a huge step forward for our industry, is really engaging the consumer strongly in these choices and giving them that choice.
Anything else you'd like to add? Any key takeaways you'd like to leave our audience with today?
I think that if you're a brand or a company that produces food, regardless of what regen ag program you're supporting. Obviously ADM, we have a large program and lots of customers, but regardless of which program you're supporting, I really implore brands to embrace this storytelling opportunity, particularly including the farmers. They are counting on the value chain to really engage the consumer and share these investments that are happening on the farm and really help foster more trust and transparency in our broader food system. I think it's pretty existential for our industry at large to do this. So whatever regen ag program you're supporting, just please tell the story, engage your marketing teams in these programs and arm them with the tools to help convey that forward.
Great point. So Paula LaBine, Sustainability Marketing Director with ADM. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate the time.
Likewise, we appreciate all of you tuning in. For Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.